Joke of the day.
Yeah.
Sijata mbona nimepause. But yeah, joke of the day is the new cabinet. That is the joke.
So it's funny now.
It actually is.
Hi there, and welcome back to On a Friday podcast, season 3. Manze,
Tumetoka mbali.
Joe, this is our third season. Starting our third season. I am Pascal.
I'm Ron.
And it's been fun. It's been really, really good. We're recording this beginning season in which month are we? March.
July.
July. Mwaka nenda.
Ulilala wapi?
Your time stopped at some point, huh?
True. We're doing this in July, and it's a time when there's a lot of unrest and uneasiness in Nairobi, where we're recording from.
In Kenya.
Yeah, and in Kenya entirely. I mean, all the cities, all the towns, there's regular protest.
Yeah.
Young people have risen up and have started to speak loudly and want to be heard, demand to be heard on a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Right, and that's one of the things we want to talk about today.
Yeah.
Actually, that is the only thing we want to talk about today at the beginning of this season.
Yeah.
It's the only thing we want to talk about today. But we have a guest with us today.
Yeah.
I'll allow him. I will allow him to introduce himself.
Thank you, Pascal, for allowing me to do that. My name is Macharia Njuguna. And first of all, I would like to say that I am an ardent soldier in the army of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
And where I've been commissioned to serve in that particular kingdom is in the insurance industry.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, I also MC corporate events.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, I also write speeches for different leaders in society.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes to include the politicians. Who may be a big cause of what is happening right now. Basically, that's me. Well, lest I forget, I'm a husband to one wife. And
you had to specify that.
Lest you forget.
Because I know she'll be listening.
Yes.
You know, I'm a husband to one wife and a father to one daughter.
Yes, I saw you have a very beautiful daughter.
Oh, thank you. That comes from the mother.
We're all guys have so definitely genes you go. Mashallah, now since you have an interaction with the politicians when you write their speeches, do they listen to you? Anajua what we're complaining about? They actually hear us.
Well,
from your interaction with them,
I'll be very honest.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said at the beginning of all this, I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord Jesus Christ. So truth is one of the mantras that I operate on.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would say is that in my interaction with people in that particular class, they'll come to you with demands in some instances. And in my capacity being a speechwriter, it is within my mandate to actually tell them, I won't write things that are not reality on the ground. So before I even get to writing your speech, I do a serious research of whatever it is that you represent, be it a county, be it whatever capacity you are in. So they come with their demands, but they find someone who's already grounded and is not willing to put out anything that's further from the truth. What goes out from us is the truth.
Maybe that's why. That might be the reason why people don't know you as much as Itumbi.
I totally agree.
Just say the things they like. Honestly, sometimes.
Yeah, because I'm thinking for a lot of people, and me na to may have this same conversation about now the places we work now in the tech field, which happens in the same way. When a boss comes to tell a UI designer afanye hivi, kazi ya UI designer si kucritique if this is a good idea or not. When ni mtu wa mkono, wewe fanya kitu yenye umeambiwa. So for a lot of people, they take it like that as well. Umekuja kuambiwa, write a speech and make sure that it has these elements. A lot of people don't want to question it. Wako tu like, that's what you want. You're paying me for it. Sawa.
Which I think, if you ask me, it's a detriment to our very selves. Because if you're writing something and you know it's going to be put out in the public to form and shape opinions, it would be very wrong for you as a Kenyan to accept to do that, despite the money that is being paid. But it's also unfortunate because if you have been keen on the political scene, I won't name names, but it is clear that some bloggers are not really doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be putting out information that is right and that can shape opinion in the right direction, right? But you find people with remarks that are very tribal, and you can almost tell this person has been set out on a divisive mission, you know? And what I've been doing, particularly even in the groups that I'm in, talk of WhatsApp, talk of all these other social media platforms, if somebody throws in something that I know is not beneficial to Kenya and Kenyans, I'm shooting them down with the truth. And I'm standing firm on my ground and telling them, look here, you can't be talking tribalism right now, knowing what we are fighting is a problem we've faced since independence. You know? I've had instances where I've even been threatened, you know? Somebody's telling me, dude, you know, we know you, where you live and your family. And my response to that, and I would want it to be a response, you know, across board, is that, look here, I serve a living God. And the Bible tells me, what can a mere mortal do to me? Like, we have to go to this thing with bravery. You know, cowardice has to be a thing of the past if we want to see solid change in the things that we're fighting.
And it's actually nice that you have ended on that note, because where we wanted to kick off this conversation today is how we got to where we are, like with everything that's happening. Sai kuna maandamano kila wiki, at least twice. And I've been having these conversations on the side, na nimekuwa nikemea mabeshte zangu. From my own assessment, the more these maandamanos zinaendelea, the more enemies the government makes, because they keep on making, in my view, in my view, silly mistakes that would have otherwise been avoided. Kituka kushoot journalist point blank, like you are 6 meters away, you shoot her 3 times on the leg. Like, you're just creating enemies now from people who are just bystanders. Hawa walikuwa tu wakuje, they do their work, wa report, wapeleke information. But now they are your enemies now. Sawa naongeza one more day ya maandamano on an economy that you yourselves claim that is already being strained. In your own assessment, how did we get here? And what has it turned to? Because peers, some people have been claiming that, you know, Gen Zs walianza with a clear objective, reject finance bill, but that's no longer the case. So some people make the case here, simlisema atoe finance bill, ametoa. So mbona mnaendelea
Can I jump on that?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, all this started because of the finance bill. In fact, it all started end of June. Now that I'm getting my months wrong. It was June. The last, I think, 2 weeks of June, when finance bill was starting to get passed. And that for me was the hardest or the most pain-wrecking moment, because people are on the streets, several days in a week, complaining that they do not want this. And then our MPs go and sit in parliament and claim that they did, what they call it, public participation. And people want this. And people are endorsing it. Yet, the same people you're claiming want this, they are right outside your door, bashing your door down to stop you from making that decision. And you have to rush a decision that usually takes 2 days in 2 hours, because you don't want to face the fact that these people are these people do not want what you're pushing. So MPs knew. And for me, the whole protest and complain, as much as it's all under the banner Ruto must go, for me it's really Kenyamina Nyuma, mostly the MPs. Because they had a chance to stop this. They had a chance to listen, and they're within their rights and their powers as MPs to do that. But instead, walikuwa watu wa mkono pia. It feels like pia watu wa mkono wenye whether wamelipa or not, wamekataa kukubali, sawa. But watu wa mkono wenye wameamua, they're going to pass the bill, they're going to do what their boss told them to do without caring what anybody else says and think. You know how it started? They started talking very badly. It is just a few people in Tao, There's nothing major going on.
Photos are edited.
Yeah, it's just some rich kids being disturbed because you want to tax the cars of their father. What? They are so dissociated with the rest of society, they don't even hear everyone complaining.
Yeah.
And then the youth came out to say one thing. Our parents are also complaining. Only that they've grown up in a generation and in a time ya moi, mali unanyamaza unafanya what you're told. As long as unaamka, unafanya kazi, unajenga nchi, umalize uende. Sino watu tuligrow up tukisema we jenga, si tutapaka rangi. Tunarealize hata nyumba ijamalizwa kujengwa. Hata hakuna nyumba. Na
hiyo nyumba ilijengwa side moja. Unasikianga story ya msee mwenye ameenda States, alafu amehaya watu wamjenge hao. Alafu wanajenga tu ukuta moja,
wanashinda kutumia picha.
Hiyo ukuta moja.
Ndio hiyo. Hiyo ndio tunaambiwa tupake rangi saina hata hakuna anything. So even they could complain, but wamerealize wamefika point where wako na job because that's what they were pushed to. They're earning a few that they're earning, they're eating, they've lived every other day up to now. So why start now? So wanaendelea tu. But for the youth, it's a lot. There's still a lot to go on. There's still a lot to do. So that's why it started with the finance bill, because people are really much against it. And we'll talk about why people are against it, as many people as they were. And then it went on now to other things that trickled down, especially now all coming from economical point of view. Because Babu, they went down to our pockets. They took more money from us, from our pockets. Not Jonyesha, what they took last year, they've done with it. And they wanted to take more money from everyone, from our parents who worked hard and slaved through their lives, and from us who are just starting to slave through our life side. So that's why people are complaining.
Well, if we look at it from where it started, I've given this in several other groups, and my opinion is this. What Kenyans came out to say, first of all, let me discount this whole story of Gen Z. And we should run away from that narrative. Because if you look at it, in essence, that Gen Z narrative is meant to water down the cause of all these protests. And what they're trying to say is that these are just kids protesting. Now, here is what makes me discount that narrative. It's because when you speak about Gen Zs, you realize that a big chunk of our population right now is actually in that age category. So what are we saying in essence here? It's that these are not Gen Zs protesting. These are Kenyans protesting. All right? So let's run away from that narrative. Let's say Kenyans are protesting. And that is the only way. I think that's one of the ways. Let me not say the only way. That is one of the ways that this whole cause is going to make sense in the long run. Okay? Now, where it started, I would actually want to say what we are seeing now started back in 1963. Since we got independence as a nation. And what I'm saying by that is that we've never known what proper governance is. We've always had leaders, let me call them politicians because they don't qualify to be called leaders. Leaders have that sense of humanity and they want to do things for tomorrow, not for the moment and to enrich or have selfish interests. So since 1963, when we got our independence, we've never known what good governance is. The unfortunate bit is that the Kenyan populace, through the Gen Zs who are, the people who are now feeling the brunt of this whole mess. The camel's back was broken by the finance bill. But what that camel, back, the camel back that broke, the burden started back in 1963. And now currently Kenyans are saying, look here, we don't like the way things are going. It's unfortunate, Ruto, you're the one who's at the helm right now. But, when you decide to lead a country, you lead that country with all the wounds and the warts that country has. Okay? Just the same way when you get married, the Bible actually says, I think somewhere, that you marry your wife with her debt. So kama alikuwa na deni ya Equity, my friend, utamsaidia kulipa hiyo deni. So when you decide to lead a country, any problems facing that country is your burden to solve. Now the unfortunate bit, and that is why the things have gotten where they are now, is because instead of Ruto standing up and owning it and saying, look here, I feel you and I understand where the problems are, and I'm going to work with you to solve them, he started trying to introduce gimmicks You know?
Yeah.
You say you've disbanded the cabinet, and then when you come back and give us a new list, it has names that were on the previous
people,
one.
and
you know?
people who are not even needed.
Exactly.
Nekama nini, you're cheating on your girlfriend. Alafu she finds out that you have a side chick. Alafu kwambie, huyu side chick, if we are to continue, toa msichana kwa maisha yako, umwambie sawa nimemtoa. Alafu namrudisha ka bestie.
We shouldn't really entirely fault Ruto. And don't get me wrong, you know, and you think that my statement means that he's not doing anything wrong. But here is what I've been telling people in other groups. And I think I want to read it to you verbatim. You know, instead of being angry with people who are not seeing what the Kenyan protesters are really going for, we should empathize with them. Because clearly they have unknowingly suffered the largest trauma of fear politics and abuse by politicians. Now, those people who know what abuse can do to you, it can make you delusional, you know, to the extent that you don't really see the issues at hand, you know. This may, I want to say this with a request that you be patient with me, because I find a lot of people I find a lot of people having a hard time to reconcile this with the life that we are living today. I would highly recommend that Kenya as a nation take it upon themselves to really pray for Ruto, because the Bible actually tells us that these problems that we face have nothing to do with flesh and blood, guys. It's all about principalities of darkness. It's all about powers of rulers of darkness and hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. What that means is I could be looking at Pascal here. We can't understand why we don't get along, but it is not us as human beings. It is the spirit operating in me and the spirit operating in him. Now we need to pray for our president, because clearly the spirit that's operating in him is not in love with us Kenyans, man. And how you know that who is wrong in this whole context of issues? Who are the majority? You know, you can't be one single person and you're right, and a whole 40, 50 million, how many are we now? Are wrong. And many people may want to say, but not all Kenyans are against him. But here's my question. We've been seeing it all over news. Out of 47 counties, did they report how many? 37 were actually having protests at some point. You know, that clearly tells you that whoever is at the helm is the problem. And what we would be praying for him to do at this moment is to wake up, and that whatever power is operating in him releases him from whatever bondage that is. And how you know it's actually a bondage is by what we spoke earlier about. You know, you come and tell us, I'm here to correct the ills, and I'm going to start this by, you know, firing my entire cabinet. Then you come back and you're giving us the same people, you know? And even where you've not given us the same people, you're giving us the same crop of people, you know? That tells you there's a problem. And I can go to some extent to try and break down what the problem is the fact that our politics in Kenya have been a lot about tokenism, you know? I'm going to come to you and tell you, look here, vote me in. And I think I can almost remember a campaign trail where our current president was somewhere in Garissa. And he was telling them, if you vote me in, nitakuja hapa na nijenge barabara, you know? That shouldn't be a selling point for you to be elected president, because once you become president, you're serving the entire country, whether they voted for you or not. To some extent during his campaign, and you know, I'm sure my wife will listen to this at some point and she can attest to it. I was telling her, you know, this is not how you approach people. You can't give promises at this level. Are you trying to threaten us that if we don't give you our votes, development in our areas will be stunted? That should have been a pointer for us to disqualify him then. But then again, we come to the point where I said this problem started in 1963. So what politics do the larger population know? They know the politics of tokenism. And that is why he can't get rid of some people in the cabinet, because he made promises to them. Support me, bring your block of voters to me, and I will give you this back. You know, which is totally wrong.
And that's where Macharia, I very much conflict on prayers, especially now about the churches is clear what you've said. What we need, especially from the church is not prayers right now. Yes, we always need prayers from the church and our mothers. Without their prayers, tutatoka tu hapo nje na tushutiwe na stray bullet. So yes, we need their prayers. But what we need from believers, from the church and the bishops to do to our chief Nabi is to talk to him. Najua ski, then we remove him.
Now here's the thing, Pascal.
What you're saying is true. He's had so many chances to fix this, but he's not. His wife imported a bishop. Was it a bishop?
Benny Hinn. Benny Hinn. My grandmother was a huge fan.
Well, now that tells us
all the way to pray for him. This I feel like there are so many other bishops and people who've just been coming. The executive icon 2 pastors. The second wife. Second lady is also a pastor, right? Yes.
I like your point, Pascal. I like your point, Pascal.
It's not that prayers are not working. God works in tandem with humans. God doesn't do the action. Humans do the action.
Now, let me tell you
God makes the opportunity and situation.
I like your point, Pascal.
We have the opportunity right now to do some action on our prayers we've been praying. What are we praying? God make our president better. Here's an opportunity to make our president better. Get another president.
One moment, just to add to what Pascal is saying. Pascal, I really want you to appreciate that I'm on your side. You know? And when I'm speaking about prayers, I mean everything that we do in this life is dependent on the will of God.
I agree.
And the Bible also comes and tells us that faith without action
is dead.
So I'm with you. So what I'm trying to say is, as we protest, can the country also go on their knees? All right? Because what I know, and I preach very loudly, without prayer, man cannot. Mark the word cannot. And without prayer, God will not. Underline the word will not.
The people may.
We shall pray. You know, that's another avenue to fight our battle.
So for the sake of sounding like a moderator, leo nimekuwa moderator kwa anyway, we have another special guest. You can introduce yourself.
Okay, niaje wasee, ni demwenyu wa vibe, Nikita Winnie hapa, na leo niko na wase wengine oh my god, on a Friday podcast. Are you guys ready?
What's your stand on this political stuff? Tumombe Nabi.
Tafadhali sema hivyo.
Tumombe cause
Mombi anatosha, lakini
he's on another level, I swear. Mi kwanza hizo kifo ndo
very unfortunate
sana, cause maandamano started quietly. Our aim was rejecting the bill. So mi sielewi hizi drama zote zinatokea. I think umesema prayers will work.
I think for me, if I'm to answer the same question, nilikuwa naambia one of our engineers hapo nje, kiambia if I can group our problem, the cause of our problem into 2 is 1, our parents not doing their jobs, and 2, I'm sorry to say, and I really don't use this language often, but the stupidity of Kenyans. Let me break down both. 1, venye umesema, our problem started in 1963. So that means from the era ya 1963, all those generations tumekuwa nazo, from our grandparents to our parents, they didn't address the problem that brought us here.
Yet kumekuwa na protest every single youth generation. Hawa kina Ruto wenye wanateta sahi, when they were young, they were in the streets protesting against Moi.
No, he wasn't. Ruto is a Moi baby. He's a Kanu baby.
He started tasting the cake back then, you know.
Alikopa anaongea against legacy.
He's a Kanu baby. Anyway, so I'll get to that. So 1, clearly, now that tumefika hapa, inamaanisha kuna mtu uko nyuma kufanya kazi yake. It's like ushaingia mahali, unaona hii uchafu imekaa hapa wiki 2 na kumekuwa na watu kwa hii nyumba. So for me to find this dirt here after 2 weeks, someone over the last 2 weeks hajafanya kazi yake. So now I have to come clean up because someone didn't clean up. Kuna mwenye who made the mess. But in addition to mwenye make your mess, all those people who have been passing that mess wakisema, it's not my business. maisha ni fupi, nitakufa niwaachie nchi yenyu. So now we have inherited a country. That's why I agree with you that the problems zilianza much earlier. And ukiangalia, there have been instances in the recent past that zimekuwa ziki aggravate the situation even more. Like kuna politicians living very flashy lifestyles. Alafu do you know how much it takes for you to contribute? Was it 20 million? Kwa nini? Kwa harambe. Like, how much money do people think these politicians have for them kwenda milioni moja? Maka mbao. How much money do people think these politicians have? So those things have been aggravated. And kiangaliata last year, finance bill last year, politicians was speaking with such confidence na such arrogance. Hadi kuna mmoja alisema, hii hata mkatae wakiintroduce housing levy. Sema hii whether mtake msitake tunaipitisha. People didn't forget.
Na hata koti kasema pana, lakini bado here we are.
People did not forget. People remembered. So just as you've said, it's just that mupenda kutumia a more silly example. Yeah. Ukiangalia hizi stories za Luya man kills his father over a plate of ugali. The ugali wasn't the problem. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. Exactly. Ilim push off the edge.
Exactly.
Ukienda kuangalia story, unapata this father has been abusing this kid since he was 6. Amekuwa kimtukana, amekuwa kimchapa, alimvunja mkono at some point. Siku moja akaingia kwa nyumba, ametoka mjengo, anasikia njaa. Alafu akuuliza, sapa hiko? Akaambiwa, babako alimaliza ugali. Anaamua leo, ni mwanaume mmoja peke yake anishukua hii nyumba. Atuishi wanaume wawili kwa hii nyumba. So yeah, I believe that's one of the problems. The second problem, enye nilisema, it's stupidity ya Kenyans. And I said this before, even if we take the assumption that Ruto stole votes as true, let's work with that assumption, that he stole votes for him to win the elections. There were enough people who voted for him for there not to be a huge uproar when he stole. We are working with that assumption. So enough people looked at this young man, wakaona, he's the best person to take us through at least the next 5 years. And the reason why I'm saying, I would blame, nilikuwa na have a conversation with my friend Jana, a very nice lady, nilikuwa namwambia, at some point Kenyans, we have to take responsibility. Because you can't come and vote for a thug, alafu when the thug steals,
unakuja kuteta, kuna mwizi pale, ulimuingiza.
The thug is the problem, but the thing with our form of democracy is indirect. Ukisema MPs ni watu wa mkono, they are quite literally watu wa mkono. Swali ni mkono ya nani? They're supposed to be our hand.
Exactly.
They're not supposed to be the president's hand.
Exactly.
And I was observing,
and IMF's hand.
I was observing the president akiroam around the country akipoach MPs. Likuwa nakachina shindo, do Kenyans actually see what is happening? Because the executive is buying the legislature. No, Billy kikam, hakuna debate. Hakuna debate.
In fact, unapatanga there's few changes on it.
The executive has the majority votes. They just pass it, maisha inaendelea. So nilikuwa naangalia akibuy out politicians, nashindwa, I don't think Kenyans understand what is happening right now. Because the reason why we have 3 separate arms of government, so that we can have that balance of
check
power.
And balance.
Legislature kileta ufala, executive inasema hapana, ama judiciary. Executive kileta ufala, legislature inasema no, we cannot do this. But ukiona legislature iko under executive.
Acha legislature, hata opposition iko under executive. Hata opposition yenyewe. So we're getting to a point where nothing, yote ni kitu moja, it's all one person's hand. In the previous administration,
even state house.
In the previous one, they even controlled judiciary. I don't know if Ruto still has control over judiciary. Maybe we can assume, but if he has so much control like this, nobody can go up against him on anything.
Well, could I interject on
last point?
Okay, go on.
To address a new dimension. I agree with you on the problem. I just don't agree with you on the solution. yes, we have someone who, for some reason, akili yake is not in our best interest.
True.
But imefika mahali, unajua hata sijui kaiko kwa Biblia, because I'll be very honest, sisomangi Biblia as much as I should. But God helps those who help themselves. So Mungu mali anakaa, anaona tu all we are doing is praying. Anakuja tu tunaomba.
Anaenda hivi kiasi anarudi.
Tuko tu bado kwa maombi. Anashindwa when will they start acting? So in addition to us now making a bad decision, which I think Kenyans need to be honest with themselves about, we made a bad decision. Now we are in the bad decision. Now, I'm actually glad that now we have a bad decision who prays.
Yeah.
Because now,
well,
that should be.
I think
yes.
Here's the thing, Ron and Pascal.
Let me just finish.
I think you should say prayers in quotes.
No, still praise. So
this is a representation of God as he says himself.
I actually like that because to me, that should show Kenyans that prayer is not the entire solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a part of that problem we can fight spiritually.
True.
But we live in a physical world.
I agree.
How about we deal with this problem physically? Ruto is not a spirit.
Now I'm itching, Ron.
Each dog. Gonna get Nikita's points.
For me, chenye ili ni uma sana, by the way, you know, we need justice. Mpaka sahi watu wajapata justice. Au watu wenye walikufa.
The
things that happen in Zima,
the cops who kill people are still walking around.
Imagine.
When you shoot the first, hey, man.
It's so sad. Inauma. Na watu wanataka justice, by the way. Like, hiyo story ya Githurai, I don't know why tena walirudi huko tena kusumbua tena watu. I don't know nini wanatafuta huko. Au watu wenye walikufa walipatikana kwa re. Kwanza mazee, I'm from KCA, so for a fallen soldier Kulen. Aliuliwa tu hivyo. Uliona hiyo vile mwili yake ilipatikana kwa re. It's so sad. Hakuna justice imefanyika. Ule mtoto mdogo alishutiwa Rongai. What are they doing? Nothing. It's so sad.
I saw Nini on Twitter today. One of the mothers of the kids who died alikuwa tawa akiprotest na pia anaingizwa gari ako tu hapo mmeua mtoto wangu na sasa mimi ndo mnaekea gun and all those orders come from the top. That's why nasema hakuna maombi hapo juu hizo atakuja na aseme press conference nimeongea na Mungu I prayed for this we've decided the police and the military will intervene.
Now
God has spoken higher.
Now just
now
to
each.
Oh, thank you and Nikita, that's a very good point that you brought about. You know, those people died unnecessarily. And what I would say is that someone did that thinking they were sorting the problem, but they were just adding firewood into the fire.
How dumb are they, Pia?
Yeah, they were just stoking the fire. And I have seen a phrase going around. They died, but they gave us strength to keep moving. You know, that just tells you that their death may not be compensated as it should be by the government, but the people will avenge them by making sure these protests and this saying we are dissatisfied will not stop without result. You know, that's what I think we can rest for now as our comfort. Okay? And now just to come back to Ron, when I say prayer, remember I said the Bible says faith without action is dead.
Yes.
So prayer is coming in as a recipe. It's a combo. As we are going for the protests, can we also pray that God sees us through with this agenda that we are trying to push to this, you know, stone or wall in quotes that has refused to listen? And in the meantime, could we also pray that whatever spirit that is operating in this particular stone change? So that they wake up to the fact that people are suffering.
Let's pray that it lives.
Well,
the spirit and the inhibit and the inhibitor.
And then also
the parasite and the host.
And then also, you know, Ron has raised a very important point also where he spoke about you know, people having made a stupid decision. Now, what I would want to say, and I've been trying to preach this as much as I can to different groups of people, is that, yes, mistakes have been made. People have voted on tribal lines. People have protected, you know, trashy leaders just because they come from their tribe. You know, people have been duped into voting, you know, leaders who are not worth leading, in Kikuyu we say the cattle dip committee into MP positions and governor positions, which is very unfortunate. But the point at which we are as Kenyans, I want to be very categorical and say, if we dwell on those mistakes and who made them and when, we shall not move forward. All we need to know and agree is that, yes, we've made mistakes, but how do we all rid ourselves of these mistakes without trying to identify who made which mistake where? Can we all combine as, the way God says, we are all sinners as human beings? And can we all join hands and say, as Kenyans, we've made mistakes. But how do we move forward now from these mistakes?
Yes.
Is number one, face the current mistake head on.
Yes.
Number one is face the current mistake head on without having any divisions as Kenyans. Where now they want the political class will sit back and use those very divisions that we are speaking about to make sure that this cause is broken and watered down to a point where it gains no results. Because they're going to tell you, si Wakikuyu walivotia uhuru, juni wao. Then Kikuyus now have been taken out of the equation. Kidogo they'll say, see, Luos have always been pushing for Raila. You get kidogo. Now listen to this, Ron. Listen to this, Ron. So if you look at it critically, what has happened in those two statements that I've just made? Kikuyus have been taken out of the equation to stand on their own. Luos have been taken out of the equation, not to stand with the Kikuyus, to stand on their own. Are you understanding what is happening? So we need to totally run from the idea of who made what mistake. All we should be saying is, as Kenyans, we've made mistakes in appointing our leadership. How do we now move out of that?
Amen.
But now there's someone who asked, what's next, yeah? But so no, hatuwezi kuwa na next, we don't have a now. So ni hao correct hizo vitu zenye wamefanya.
Watoke.
Watoke.
But I think part of what I'm understanding from what Macharia is saying is it's now us to fix the problem.
Exactly.
And it's actually good, the cabinet appointment, especially phase 2. Me, it actually, I'm looking at it as a blessing in disguise. Because now, I've always told people, to doctors, you are a patient. To police, you are someone either to be protected or to be punished. To a politician, you are a vote. So, people need to stop looking at the opposition as the savior.
Yes.
So, and I think that's what a lot of people only realize when the second batch appointments zilikam. Wakarealize, Umsensi ndo alikuwa parliament juzi akisema the government should listen to Gen Zs. Sai he's a cabinet. Like what is happening? Ni nini inafanyika? But to him, you are a vote. So, yeye atanunua hiyo position sai or atanunuliwa, alafu wanajua. Unajua pia politicians wanajuanga Wakenya wengi si kwa mafala. Nani alisema anaitwaje? King Kaka. Kuna ngoma fulani alitoanga, it was more of a poem than a song. Alitoanga kitambo, like sema ikifika time ya kuvote akili zetu zoja shonde. Which is actually true. Because so much happens within 4 years, alafu the last year. Unaangalia watu unashindwa, my God. Did you just forget the last 4 years happened? Ulisahawaje? So I think part of the thing I'm understanding, I don't know whether he meant it, but part of the thing I'm understanding from Macharia's point is, for now, what we need to know how to now deal with the problem now, then structure a way forward that won't repeat that problem.
Exactly.
Like, we have identified the problem. How do we deal with that problem now? And after going forward, how do we make sure this problem does not repeat itself?
Exactly. And Ron, could I add to that? Now, this is where we need to make sure that even as the people who are dissatisfied with what is happening in our political, affairs right now, we do not go, I don't want to use the word war. We do not go to a fight without knowing what we want at the end. And how can we know what we want at the end? Amongst these protesting Kenyans, there are professionals who've gone to school and they've studied different things that are needed for government. What we should now be asking ourselves is, in the little capacity, Macharia here as a speaker, as an orator, as an army, a soldier of the army of Jesus Christ. What is my contribution to the new Kenya that we want?
Yeah.
Such that if people are discussing things that are to do with, say, my industry, which I come from, which is insurance, and they're making a mistake, I can stand up and say, hey guys, that's not how it goes. If you want it to work and work perfectly, this is how it goes. All right.
Yeah.
And Ron, for example, you're a lawyer. If we are sitting somewhere and saying, Ruto akitoka tutapanga hivi na hivi, and it falls within your jurisdiction as a lawyer, you should stand up and say, no, this is what we should correct for us to be able to enjoy that new Kenya, which works like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
So as much as we are protesting, let us not have it as a whole, tunachimba tu shimo bila kujua tunaelekea wapi. In our own small capacities as professionals, and do not think that I'm only talking about professionals in terms of education.
Yeah.
There are professionals down at the, community level who someone kazi yake anajuanga kwa mbao ndiye pro. Kuna mwingine kwa kumobilize watu ndiye pro. Kuna mwingine ukitaka kujua farmers, kujua stories za maji ndiye pro. Now we should be at that level where we are asking ourselves, what am I willing to contribute not only to what is going to take us to the new Kenya, but to what is going to make the new Kenya prosper?
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And that is the only way that this whole fight and agitation for proper governance is going to make sense. We cannot have people who are joyriders anymore. Everybody has to come up and say, I'm playing my part and I'm playing it as a proud Kenyan.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
That still starts with the fight. It still starts with saying, Adimal tumefika, sawa tumekuwa ajinga. And tuli make bad decisions last election year. Personally, my parents walivotia Ruto, na mi wa judge every day. Mi wakumbusha that when I'm broke, it's because of their decision.
Unafaa kuwatumia weekly reminder.
Because for me, I had a really long conversation with my folks.
Yeah.
Both of them, together and separately. And individually, they were still sticking to Ruto. And one of the main reasons that they were sticking to Ruto, it's because of church.
Kanisa.
Now, here's another thing. Can I
because
interject?
The church endorsed him unofficially. It's because he was seen as a church goer, a person who prays, a person who listens to God, a person who listens to the voice from above.
Yes.
Voice from above yake ilikuwa above hapa tu juu Europe.
Now here's the thing, Pascal.
Ngoja, I'm not done. So it starts right now with this fight that's saying, sawa, nyewe tuli make mistakes.
That's true.
I made my own mistake. I didn't vote. My parents made their mistake. They voted for the wrong person. Where's Juko na consider a mistake voting for a person who won't win?
No.
Sawa. Yeah.
Because for anyone who's won.
And I'm with you, Ron.
I didn't vote for Raila either. But,
did you vote the last election?
I didn't, but hey, the next one.
Okay.
Definitely, you must vote.
No,
Nikita.
we know our mistakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I voted for the one who didn't win.
Cool. It's cool. At least we know we are there.
Yeah.
Because we get to understand, we don't have to repeat that mistake.
Exactly.
That ndio nasema yenyewe tuangalie what does a person has to offer vizuri. Ametufanyia nini the past 5 years.
Sijui amekuja kulia kwa kanisa.
That's
not a qualification for a good president.
Kabisa.
Exactly.
WSR, this is his second finance bill yenye imekataliwa, right? Second or third? I think second. And the first one ndio yenye ilipandisha kila kitu juu. Like tulichapa tu na so many taxes hadi tukakubali. Juu alisema tatengeneza country with it. 1 year down the lane, people are like, pesa ya last year ilienda wapi? So this year unataka more. Ya last year ilienda wapi? Did you see any development happening? We live in the capital. Did you see anything? Barabara yake imekuwa mbaya throughout. Mali Uhuru aliachia tu hivi, huyu mwingine naye hajashika. So that's just one item. There's so many other food. Nini nimona the CSs, the former CSs, and even the ones who wamekuwa switched. Their teams are releasing statements to show the much work they've done. I saw ya Kipchumba Murkomen. Like some of the much work amefanya for roads and transport for the past 20 months. And I'm going through it, I'm like, sawa, this is a bit. But all of these were things that were in progress. Things that were started na zikaachwa as we wait to transition to another government. I still don't see much of his own footprint in it. And I went through hizo vitu zenye ofisi yake li-release. With these guys iko hivyo, like wanashinda tu akileta hizo madrama. So right now starting with the fight, tukatae kubali their stupidity na their mistakes na hizo ujinga zote wanasema. And then the next step in my eyes ni kurecall the MPs. So that is how we get a way forward. That is why among the things people are complaining mostly about and the president had to abide ni IEBC, because that gives us a system to actually do more action than just being on the streets complaining.
True.
Because now we can play their game in a bit of a way. Ron, I know you hate politicians.
Now,
but we live in a country
we can do without
and a
them.
System where it is run by politicians. Politicians are the one who go to campaign, to be governor, to be MP, to be president, and they are all politicians. They are all liars. You say all politicians are the same. Due to mona opposition, wakipewa tu hivi position moja mbili kwa government wanaruka mbio sana. Wote wengine they're still there, but that is where our system demands us to get a president from.
Pascal, yeah, I'll actually address that. But
can I go?
Yeah.
As much as we run in this political country, politics is the way we govern our country.
And
we had a constitution that gives us technocrats to come in as CS. How many technocrats are in the current CS?
No. I'm not making a claim that we don't need a political system.
Yeah,
but
we definitely do.
That's the concern that you.
Now here's the thing, Pascal, and I totally hear you when you say that as much as I'm saying each individual citizen has to play their role and decide which capacity they want to come in for the fight for New Kenya and for making New Kenya a success. Now, don't get me wrong. Let me give you an analogy of how I see this whole thing. There's a whole tree. Let's assume it's a compound. There's a whole tree in the middle which has grown to maturity. So that means it has many branches. It has many leaves, right? And what we are saying is we are not happy with this tree. Okay? Now, fighting it right now, the fight that we have started, it may sound like I'm reducing whatever wins that we think we've had, but right now we are just plucking the leaves, guys. All right? Now, for us to be able to come down to not only plucking the leaves, to cutting down the branches, now that's where I was saying every citizen needs to decide what capacity am I playing in educating those who don't know, first of all, what kind of a political state of affairs we're in, and by making sure that they are brighter come election next time, they're not making the same mistakes. Now we've gotten to cutting down the branches. Now don't forget that we still have the stump standing. Si tumetoa majani, tumekata branches. With what capacity we are going to play as individual citizens. Now there is this stump that is still in our compound. And guess what? For those who've cut down trees and removed them from, areas they are not wanted, roots go deep.
Yes.
So we might even cut that stump down, and that could be by taking root out of the equation. Okay? By whatever means. And I mean, when I say whatever means, let's stick to constitutional means. But but guess what? The roots are still there.
Divine intervention.
The roots are still there. Okay?
Yes.
So it needs to come down to that smallest level. And when I say the smallest level, I mean even down to the families.
Yeah.
We may be making noise about the country, but guess what? The smallest unit of a nation is the family. Yeah. So if we are not even managing our families right, what right do we have to come and speak now about the nation?
But
you have no qualification.
We're protesting now because we are managing our families right. The president has been telling us several times that you all live within your budget, live within your means. Now his own family, the government, is not living within its means.
To add to my statement so that it makes sense, when and this is again about God. God starts from the family level. That's where he created Adam and Eve. Start a family. Then from there, he blesses you with a nation. And from there, he blesses the next generation and the next generation. So God is all about nations and generations. But it starts from the family level.
Before you come in, because I strongly disagree with what Pascal amesema, I want to get your view on what do you think now is the best way for us to move forward?
I think the best way for us to move forward.
Before you.
Before here, by the way, the Kenyan youth, the Gen Z, manzemi, I would like to appreciate you people kwa sababu walifanya movement. Movement na ilifanyika. Now we saw people were united, even celebrities. Watu wengi, tulikuwa united. And now about on the future, mi siwezi sema we have like a dialogue. Chinaweza sema hata kama kutakuwa na ongoing protests kukue nayo but in a peaceful way.
The protesters are peaceful. It's the cops that are not.
That's totally true.
In a peaceful way. By that I mean, can we change the strategy? Hii ya kuibiana, sijui mara That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think on your last point, you may touch on, mi nimeenda maandamano, personally.
Same.
And I'll tell you exactly why nilienda. So mara ya kwanza vile niliona finance bill, again, I've been monitoring these things. Niko na finance bill, niko na the executive controls the legislature, hii kitu itapita, hata tupige kelele. Hata kitu yenye nilikuwa sana post nikiambia watu, I hope you don't forget this anger come 2027.
Yeah.
I hope you don't forget it, because Kenyans have that tendency. Anyway, so ikafika mahali, watu wakaenda maandamano ya kwanza, then kukanza kwa na abductions. That is why I drew my line. Kakua, you will not take us back to Moi era. That we are not going.
Yeah.
We did not live through that, because yes, I was alive when Moi was the president, but it's not something I actively remember. Like, hautupeleki huko. Hiyo inakufa na wazazi wetu. So that was one. So venye unasema, yes, I think it's important for us to maintain some of the strategies that we have been using kama peaceful. Ukiangalia a lot of the protests, largely, imekuwa notice for the first time, when people loot in town, the Nairobi business community, they don't blame the protesters. Wanasema, kuna group ingine iliingia hapa. Sijua kakuja kufanya nini. When virtually for all our history, imekuanga, our protesters, wanakujanga hapa, it's just hell. So I think that's one thing yenye to me change, and I would be very commendable. I would commend people for taking that route. Coming to your point that I strongly disagree on, Pascal.
Ngoja, see, you hold that.
I
want to disagree with something yenye. Si Nikita amesema. Macharia alikuwa amesema, and Nikita ameiraise nikakumbuka. Gen Z, this all thing, yes, tumesema what broke the camel's back, but the ones who started voicing it and being bold and brave about it are Gen Z.
Totally agreed.
Because again, the older generation, the way tangu independence, how Kenyans were raised and brought up to be, ni amka, fanya kazi kwa bidii, tafuta kazi, somesha watoto, and then uko poa. And then Gen Z wanafuka kwa like hakuna kazi, waka tufanye nini, tunaona ukikula pesa. We won't just mind our business, and here you are eating our money and mismanaging our funds. And you can actually see your promises are lasted in happen. So that's why it started as a Gen Z thing.
Fair enough. Now let me come to where I disagree with you. And I'll peg off something that he mentioned as we are winding up. I was following some professor try to analyze how Germany got to where it did in the 1930s. Yeah, under Hitler. And in his view, which I actually saw it making a lot of sense, na nimeiona in Kenya, is alikuwa nasema, people thought that Germany's problem was Hitler. Germany's problem was not Hitler. Hitler was a representation of what the people were and how the people felt. So it took, ukiangalizo crowds, those people were not shot at to stand there in massive crowds to listen to him and cheer him on. They didn't take that route. How does that reflect to Kenya? Na nimekuwa nikiiona over the last several years. Kenya tulifika mahali where corruption is so normalized, hadi people don't criticize corruption anymore. Wanasema, ile siku nikiwaipata position ka hiyo, nitaiba nisort family yangu yote. That has been the climate in Kenya for such a long time.
Yeah.
True.
So a lot of people are just angry that si hao ndo wako huko, si hao ndo wanaiba, but Wakenya wengi wanataka kuiba hiyo pesa. Ni venye sisi ndo tuko huko. And another thing I was saying, ukiangalia the amount of money that floats around in those areas, si pesa kidogo. Ask yourself, we kama 10,000 na kufunga macho, ukipatiwa tu 10K uambiwe, hata si lazima ufanye anything active, uambiwe tu, just don't look there. As you're passing, usiangalie tu, just mind your business. Upatiwa 10,000 inakufunga macho. If someone presents to you 200 million, you want to tell me now you'll have the moral authority ya kusema, so many people died in Githurai. So many people died in Zimmerman. I can't take this blood money. Utaanza kunegotiate na God. Uanze kumwambia, by the God, unajua, nimekuwa nikikuomba hii pesa for long. Financial breakthrough nimekuwa nikikuomba for long.
God answers prayers.
Alafu unaanza hadi unamwambia, even if it's not for me, mamangu ameteseka sana. Unajua babangu akukua, mamangu ameteseka, akatupeleka public school, hakuwa na chakula. This would set her up for life. You start negotiating with God instead of looking at this money as blood money. So, muambia, I've been telling my friends and I'll tell our listeners, think of it critically. Because kawe ni mtu kufungwa macho na 10,000. Just imagine how much more 200 million can do to you. So I genuinely think our problem is
we are corrupt. So all of us,
we are the problem. That's why nilikuwa nakwambia MPs si ati nani alijipeleka hapo. Ruto akujipeleka hapo. Sisi ndo tulimpeleka hapo.
Exactly. Right.
So when you're trying to trace the source of the problem, look at the voter first before you look at who benefited from the votes. Shida ni utoule mtu mwenye alikuwa byproduct of the umeingia factory. Ukaenda uko mwisho kwa line mali the final product iko ukazidestroy, but the whole assembly line is still there.
in a produce,
it will still churn out the same end product.
Yeah.
So look at where this process is coming from. Mimi, how Ruto managed to convince someone that he's a hustler, I genuinely cannot wrap my head around it. I genuinely can't. A whole billionaire convincing you that mko same level. Wewe una earn 30,000 inataxiwa. He convinced you that mko same level. Acheni jokes.
Hapo alitupima. And like Ron is saying, you know, one thing that is of serious note is that our society is really corrupt. But it doesn't help us to identify that problem and then just sit and look pretty.
Yeah.
We need to do something about it. And that's why I was saying it starts with the individual. Yeah. If you make a stand and say, I cannot be corrupt, make sure you preach to your younger brothers, mabesto wako mtaani, to also be of the same mind.
Yes.
And as much as you guys don't like to hear this aspect of it, when you're in God, some of those principles come like second nature.
Okay? We have.
Well, Pascal, you know, let me go on. And I don't know, Ron, allow me when we are ready to make closing remarks, because there's one.
Actually, now we are supposed to be making.
So should I just go as I'm on this point?
Yeah. Just
okay, fantastic.
1 minute.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, actually, let me clear my throat.
Okay.
Because I want this one to go deep. And it's going to be faith-based again. I'm sorry, guys.
No, that's your point of view. That's fine.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so I looked at it this way. When you're in God, there's something that is constantly said. Sometimes doors will be closed on you. And when those doors are closed on you, it doesn't mean that is the end of your life. Sometimes when you're in God, rejection is actually correction. You're being saved from, pit holes that you could have fallen into if you took that particular job, if you started dating that particular chick or guy, and God saves you from that by shutting those doors. In our current scenario right now, I think by being rejected by more than, they said more than 30 counties, the country is telling Ruto, this door is shut for you.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate bit is that he's still trying to open that closed door. Now, the question now comes in. So what should he be doing instead of trying to open that door? If you ask me as Macharia, I would see this as an opportunity for him to unlock a lot of potential that he has, and I don't even think he knows he has it. I think we are in a situation where those who read the Bible, he's a Gideon. He's hiding in the kitchen, in the wine press, not knowing that he's been put out there to fight this war and win it for Kenya. And how can he win it for Kenya? He should have sat down and listened. What are these Kenyans telling me that they want? Good governance. And my government has been unable to give it. And we are saying, not only mine, Uhuru's, Kibaki's, Moi's, Kenyatta's, and the colonialists were unable to give it to Kenyans. So there needs to be a total paradigm shift. So in his shoes, the prudent thing to do would have been, fine. So what now next? You don't want me in power. Now allow me some time to set all the apparatus needed for another election in place. And once I've done that, I'm going to step down gracefully. You guys have your election in the shortest time possible. Elect the leaders you need. And if he did that, trust you me, guys, he would be going round all these prestigious universities and institutions giving talks because he would be the father of democracy, not only in Africa, the world over. Do you get it? And I wouldn't be surprised if he took that route. That 10 years, 20 years down the line, Kenyans are saying, hey, Fadhela, ulitusikiza jo. Ebu kam sasa usikie hii kitu venye uenda, ukilead in the right environment. You get it? So instead of trying to break this door that is already closed, my president, that is the route I would advise you to take. And you would see peace in this country better than we've ever experienced, ever. You would see youth in this country prospering better than we have ever seen them prosper. You would see old people in this country dying peacefully, knowing nimeacha nchi inajiweza. You get it?
Pension.
You get it?
Yeah.
So that would be my message to our president. And just so that he knows, I am a follower of Jesus. I don't like to call myself a Christian because Christianity has been really watered down. And Jesus teaches me to love everybody, even those who are in messes. You saw, you've read the Bible, and Jesus was dining with prostitutes, with con men, people like Matthew, who are tax collectors in those days. They would cheat you of your money. We would be more than willing to tell him that we actually love him.
Yeah.
And we just pray that he would take the right steps and right the many wrongs that are in this country. God putting him in that position gives him all the wherewithal to correct what is wrong in this land. Thank you.
Ruto ajue part ya life he speaks for himself. Macharia is speaking for himself. He's not speaking for me. Pascal, parting shot.
Amka, tunaibiwa. Amka uchukue ID, amka utafute ID, utafute voters card and recall your MP. Tunaibiwa.
Winnie.
Amemaliza
kupiga kelele.
Okay, for the future of Kenya to be bright, a lot has to change, starting with the leadership, the economic development, social issues like corruption zinafaa kuisha. Na the coming election, manzi kama mayouth tujitokeze tuende tupige kura. Please.
Watu watafute voters card mapema.
My parting shot would just start where ya Winnie imeisha. And that's in all the mess that has happened over the last 1 month. People unnecessarily underline, bold, italics, the word unnecessarily dying. Some of the good things that I've seen come out of this whole process is now I can finally sit down with a 24-year-old. Now he or she sees the need yake ya kuvote. Because for such a long time, tulikuwa tu tunaongea kama boys. Unza wase mnaenda kuvote, or I just meet someone. Unza by the way, hiyo siku sitako available. Ndaenda kuvote. And no, it's a waste of time. Now they understand that their pockets is directly linked to that decision they're going to make hiyo siku.
Exactly.
Na hiyo civic education ina happen sahi. I think that's a good step forward that we have taken. It's unfortunate that we had to go through this process
and lose people
for us to get
here.
But now we are here. At least sahi now I actually think people will listen to you. Ukisema watu waende wachukue kura, watu waende wachukue kura. Ungesema to 3 years ago, what are you saying? Like, I don't do politics.
And Ron,
I don't do politics.
Let me also add to what you're saying, Ron. I would really hope that as we are all going to collect these voters' cards, let us start cleaning out the mess, even at the party nominations level.
Yes.
Mukileta wamse hapo ati hawa ndio wanavai for MCA, who will take up in this area. Mumuangalie, mse akona, that gani. Mse amefanya nini before. You understand?
Yeah.
Because I envision a ballot paper that will have people who have no history of corruption.
Amen.
And that is doable. And it can start from the grassroots level all the way to the presidency.
True.
Now, that's why the question they're asking, what next? Tell them we shall have a clean governance in this land. And it shall all start because we are going to make sure everybody is accountable. Before you come and claim you want to lead us, Buddha, ebu tuonyeshe utatufanyia nini. Na sio kipesa.
And just for the record, what's next starts now.
Yep.
Inaanza sai.
That's true.
So anyway, hey.
Okay, wrapping up, can we have a moment of silence for the fallen soldiers?
Thank you, Nikita. That is definitely needed.
Manze, it was amazing. Nide mwenye vibe Nikita Winnie hapa. Till next time.
Bye.
Thank you, Nikita.
Cheers.